My name's Diana Martin. I'm the Executive Director at Hourglass, and I'd like to welcome you to today's First Friday Forum on the future of the arts in Lancaster County. Woo! Starting with an applause is always a good way to start. I have to say before we get started that we could only include a small segment of Lancaster's very rich arts community on our panel today. Looking around the room, I think we have enough expertise in this room that we could probably do a year's worth of programming on the arts. I see folks here from the Fulton, from the Symphony, from the Ripple Project, artists like Jerome Hershey. So thank you all so much for being here. And I'm really honored to be joined by 4 of our local leaders representing various arts institutions for today's conversation. I'm joined by John Gerdy. You know him as the founder and executive director of Music for Everyone. We have Molly Kirchoff, who's the program manager for the City of Lancaster's Office of Public Art. Cari Massey, who's provost at the Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. And Mitch Nugent, the founding executive producer of Prima Theatre. So thank you all so much for being here. Today we're going to learn more about their organizations and how they're contributing to the arts community, as well as discuss more broadly some of the challenges and opportunities for the arts here in Lancaster. And after the discussion, as always, we'll have time for some questions and comments from all of you. So really appreciate you being here and eager to hear what's on your mind. Before we get started, I do have to thank our First Friday Forum sponsors, Rogers & Associates. They make these events possible for us. The Ware Center for hosting us today, and Shoemaker that does our live streaming services, and we'll also give a quick welcome to the folks who are watching online with us today. So with that, I think we'll start with our panel discussion, and John, why don't you kick us off by talking a little bit more about Music for Everyone?
Thank you, Diana.
Actually, the people online.
Okay.
Yeah, they got you.
Are we good? You good? Okay. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Hourglass, for holding this session. Thanks for all the panelists, in particular, Carissa. I understand that you received your PhD from Ohio University?
The Bobcat.
Yeah, well, I did as well. And although, quite honestly, you might want to double-check the validity of that PhD, because after they awarded mine in 86, I thought they had lost their accreditation for a while. So you might want to check on that anyway. And thanks for everyone for showing up, all right? Yeah, Music for Everyone. We've been around 19 years. Our mission is to cultivate the power of music as an educational and community building and well-being tool in Lancaster County. We have invested since in those almost 19 years over $6 million in school and community music programs throughout the county. But our mission, our mission is very broad, and the instrument that we use to produce positive community outcomes and impact is music, which is the universal language, right? So what that does is we are particularly fortunate in the arts community that those tools that we're using, whether it's music or painting or theater or whatever, their universality provides us with a broad highway to do a lot of different things, to impact our community in a lot of different ways, okay? People, when I think of Music for Everyone, I think of 2 things primarily. One is we put instruments in kids' hands, right? And the other one is we put the pianos on the streets, right? But that's just scratching the surface regarding what we do, okay? Those instruments in kids' hands and those pianos on the streets are simply tools. They're simply tools in which we use to hopefully produce positive community outcomes and impacts, right? Our broad goal in music universality provides us with the flexibility, right, and opportunity to deliver broad, impactful community outcomes. For example, we leverage music's power and potential as a tool to enhance and support programs and initiatives in a wide variety of areas. For example, education, obviously, right? That's the most obvious. Instruments in kids' hands, after-school programs, summer camps, all those kind of things. But we also, and you all know this, the arts are also, we leverage our resources and tools to provide as an economic driver for our community, right? There's all kinds of studies out there about the economic impact of the arts in our community. And Lancaster's trying to brand itself as an arts destination and arts community, right? We feel that we've played a significant role in that with pianos, with Music Fridays, with our community chorus, programs like that, right? Another area is that, and we're really delving into this now because this is the future. This is the next frontier regarding how the arts can positively impact our community and our society. And that is leveraging the arts' power and potential as an individual therapeutic and public health tool, right? The medical profession is finally getting their arms around the idea that music, instead of pills all the time, let's put an instrument in the kids' hands, or put headphones on their heads. They're finally getting their arms around the notion that music and the arts can be a positive, powerful, individual therapeutic and public health tool. So we're delving heavily into that. That's the future, y'all. That's where we're going to have the most opportunities for positive community impact. And finally, we're really delving into the issue of social justice. Music has been at the center of every human rights and social justice movement in the history of mankind. And through our Songs for Justice program, we are providing artists and musicians and poets and painters and photographers and of all sorts a multidisciplinary platform to bear witness to what's going on in the world around them. That's what musicians and artists do, right? So the point is that, but when you add all of those up, all those impacts, really what it's about is it's about community building. It's about community building. And it's about removing as many obstacles and barriers as possible to allowing people, our public, to engage in, with, learn from, and enjoy music and the arts, right? So at its core, and that results in a more engaged population, all right? So when you look at it, it's really about community building, right? Better educated population equals a stronger community, right? A more vibrant economy equals a stronger community, right? A healthier population equals a stronger community, right? A more just society equals a stronger community. A more engaged population equals a stronger community. So really, at its core, this is about community building, what Music for Everyone is about, and what the arts are about in our community. So at Music for Everyone, we prefer to refer to music and the arts not as an extra, not as some bonus, not as some nice little thing that we can have, but you know what? It's actually the glue that holds our society and communities together because of its universal nature, right? That's music's superpower. It's a universal language, and its power and potential to build community is unparalleled. So, and in today's world, the ability to build community and build bridges and use the resources and tools at our disposal to do that is more important than ever in this polarized, divided world and society in which we live in. So, that's why we really are about trying to lower obstacles and barriers and provide wide access to more opportunities to engage in, learn from, and enjoy music and the arts in all its forms, right? So in short, Music for Everyone is literally about providing those opportunities, music for everyone. That's what we do.
Thanks, John. Mm-hmm. You also recently published a book called Lights on Lancaster that was looking at how Lancaster used the arts to transform our community. Can you just briefly talk about what you learned in that book about kind of where we've come from and where we're going?
Yeah. A couple things. So Lights on Lancaster. Okay, so Lights on Lancaster. published it about, a year ago, maybe half a year ago. And I did it for a couple reasons. Number one, to shine a light on, I think it was 34 different creatives in our community, Lancaster focused, and ask them all to write essays on, contribute essays on how they leverage their art form and the community and the creativity that that art form encourages and inspires to change the world. And if not change the world, you don't have to go all Mother Teresa on us, right? There's only one Mother Teresa. But if not to change the world, maybe change your state, or maybe your community, or maybe even just your block, right? But how do you leverage that creativity to change the world? And so if you really think about it, creativity, the second point is creativity is everywhere that we look. It touches everything that we do. It touches everything that we see. It touches everything that we use, right? And if you really take it one step further, is that if you think about the history of mankind, every single advancement in the history of mankind, back to the Stone Age, when someone thought, hey, if we maybe get a round stone, that might help us move heavy things much easier. Every single advancement, to discovering penicillin, to anything we talked about, the Wright brothers, it was sparked initially, a spark of creativity, a spark of someone looking and thinking at a higher level and saying, you know what, we can improve that, we can enhance that, or we can invent something that will improve our lives. So when we think about why should we invest in the arts, right, is because every single issue we face as a culture, as a society, as a town, as a region, a state, a nation, a global community, whether that's in healthcare, the environment, global politics, whatever, in this increasingly fast-paced world in which we live, an interconnected world in which we live, right, those issues and challenges are becoming more complex, right? And so how are we going to ever be able to address those increasingly complex issues and challenges effectively, right, if we don't develop in our population a corresponding increase in creativity, thinking at a higher level, thinking out of the box, and moving our culture and society forward. So it's about that, and finally, it's about how we need to nurture and develop creativity in our populace. And that ability to develop creativity and then turn around and use it to impact and improve and move our world forward is at the center of what we do. Because at the end of the day, investing in the arts is investing in our community, investing in improving the creativity of our community. So that's really what Lancaster's about. It's about highlighting the tremendous diversity of artists, of everything from hip-hop to painting to architecture to anything and everything, and why that is important to continue to invest in those things, and what that creativity, those art forms and that creativity that inspires can improve our lives. So that's what Lights on Lancaster is about. And again, like you said, I could have asked 200 people to contribute. But I tell you what, I've written 8 books, and this is by far the most difficult in terms of organization, because you try corralling over 34 different creatives to get their essays in, and it's like herding cats. But it was really worthwhile because I think it's a good project, and I think it reflects very positively on what a wonderful and creative and arts-driven community in which we live.
Thanks, John. I was like, I only have to corral 4 here. I'm not even sure how I'm doing here. So thank you, appreciate that. Molly, can you kick us off talking a little bit more about the city's Department of Public Art and what you do there?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, they'll get you.
Okay. My name is Molly Kirchoff. I am the Office of Public Art and Urban Design Program Manager for the City of Lancaster. The office was first established in 2010 under the Mayor Gray administration, and we thank Mayor Gray. We also thank our current administration for continuing to invest in the arts. having a dedicated office of public art is an anomaly for a city of our size in a mid-Atlantic region. I would actually say the entire city is. We were not ravaged by, urban renewal in the 70s. We still maintain a really, really dense urban core, which is excellent for a variety of reasons. We're a walkable city, and because we live in such close proximity to one another, it's really great synthesis of community to have this wonderful creative output. So, as I said, since 2010, we've had a variety of different program managers, and we found that the office has kind of changed its objectives based on that program manager's specific interests and also their education and background. My background, I'm an artist, but my master's is in urban design. So I am focusing primarily on beautification efforts, streetscape design guidelines. How can we bake beauty and art into the very DNA of our city, the urban fabric? So on that, a project that we're currently working on, the city is installing a roundabout on Plum Street in the northeast quadrant. They are putting a concrete paved courtyard on the southeast side of that roundabout. So we are putting a sidewalk mosaic into that courtyard, and it's really an effort to make something a place, right? How often do you want to go sit by the courtyard by the roundabout? Not very often. But if it has a beautiful piece of art there, it gives you a purpose. Public art is a tool of urban design, and we can use it very effectively, particularly with a lot of the private developers that are coming in right now. Why do people want to move here? And it's because we have this beautiful local culture and local art scene. I would say that Lancaster is actually quite cosmopolitan for a city of this size. Like I said, an absolute anomaly. So in addition to doing public art projects, we also like to invest in our local community by providing them mentorship opportunities, skill sharing opportunities, and business development opportunities. I think when you take away the romanticism and the whimsy of being an artist, you truly are a small business owner. So we want to be able to afford our artists those skills, so not only can they be artists, but they can stay artists. We're about creating sustainable careers for these people. So, you're not being a barista and a sculptor on the side. We want you to be a sculptor full time. So those are just a variety of the ways that the city implements the public art program. Something that's very exciting, and I'm particularly proud of, we are expanding our definition of public art to include more performance-based works. We just elected our newest poet laureate, Dana Kinsey. She is wonderful. She is a delight. She is a pleasure, and she cares very deeply about this community. We look forward to continuing to figure out how we can incorporate theater, music, public performances, performance-based arts. So it is, I think that the program is evolving in a way that is really, really positive for the community and also for the city at large.
Thanks so much, Molly. So since our theme is around the future, what does the next 5 to 10 years of the Office of Public Art look like, and how can people get involved in shaping that?
That's a good question. The future, I wish I had a crystal ball. Unfortunately, I don't. Something that I'm really focused on is finding a sustainable funding source for public art. My position is funded through the general funding, but we don't have any money for projects. So how can we find the money to create a sustainable funding source? There are several states, and they're primarily on the West Coast, that have a percent for art program, meaning that every capital improvement project, 1% of the total budget must go to public art. That is baked into a lot of those states' state legislature. We don't have that. So I'm exploring what kind of policies we can create, what kind of policy we can write to have private developers contribute something to the community. They're coming in because they want to be here. How can you continue to make this space beautiful, continue attracting people here? So yes, definitely finding sustainable funding sources, policy writing, And then also our long-range planning efforts. We just finished the comprehensive plan, of which there is an entire chapter focused on celebrating local art and culture. Our Parks Master Plan as well, we're putting public art into that plan. These plans exist. They vision for these different elements for maybe 10, 15 years out. So if we can put policy for public art into those documents, those things will happen. We also have the tourism master plan, and then also the prison site that's being reformed. Within the next couple of years, we're going to get started on that work. How can we put public art into that project? Those are two of my overarching goals. But yeah, time will tell.
Thanks, Molly. If you're walking around today for First Friday, I think some of the new storm drain murals are also out of the Office of Public Art. Been working on that, so take a look for those. Cari, kicking it to you. Cari's has had a busy week because PCAT is welcoming their largest class ever at the Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. So let us know what's going on over there.
Good Lord. Yes, we had a busy, I'd say, 4 weeks. PCAT's current class is 413. So to give you some, well, not class, but the total enrollment, to give you some scope, our maybe 8-year average was around 242, right? Which is, I have to say, intentional. We are intentionally small because we find when we can cluster students in these smaller creative groups, they are more successful, they are open to collaboration, and they connect to their communities more effectively. We have to be creative in continuing to simulate that experience as those classes have grown. So our 2-year average in terms of enrollment increase is at 368. Today our head count's 413. We were looking for beds for the last 9 months as our enrollment went from about 303 a year ago up to that 413 number. I want to talk a little bit about PCAT and that number and think about what that means about this city and this region. These are students who come from Pennsylvania by and large, probably about 60% of our students. Next up, our students are coming from Maryland, New Jersey, Delaware, and we're seeing more students come from New York and also my home state of West Virginia. And by the way, my youngest daughter is named Hazel Dickens after the mountain singer from West Virginia who was a pro-labor activist, so just FYI. I understand and agree with what you're saying. And also, as a West Virginian who lived much of my career, because let me just be honest, they didn't hire many art historians in West Virginia for the last 20 years, God bless them. I tried. I found myself moving out in a national market, so I spent some time, of course, as a bobcat in Ohio, in Athens, Ohio, and then some time in northern Minnesota. And yes, it is cold there. Take them seriously when they advise you on clothing. And then for about 14 years at a small liberal arts college in southeastern Michigan, Adrian College. And in that time, I really came to understand, as a first-generation low-income college student who was also a foster care kid, who went to making art because it was the one thing I owned, right, without family support. I came to understand that making and recognizing it and feeding that and supporting our students is an act of inclusion, because it does take resources to learn music, which is why I can't play an instrument, although my husband did buy me singing lessons recently that I'm too afraid to start. You don't want to hear me try to be Hazel Dickens. Anyway, so coming from those areas, coming from West Virginia in particular, and then coming from the Midwest and seeing the struggle to be a cosmopolitan city. When I came here, I was recruited for the job at Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. I was struck by, and this is 2019, by a city that is thriving, that is conscious, is self-reflective, and embraces the arts as a part of the community, not something to import and transplant. And you can't synthesize that. That starts in education. That starts early. That starts in families. That starts in neighborhoods. So it is in your community, in your DNA, in the way you've developed your family community and your educational communities and then your city community that you value arts and you make space and hold that space for it. You are cosmopolitan. I got to tell you, when I interviewed and I ordered Caribbean food, I was so excited because I thought, wow, Trinidad, and that's really amazing food. Not in the upper Midwest, where just a lot of boiled potatoes I was eating, and I'm a vegetarian, so that was particularly limiting as a palate. So funniness aside, I just want you to know how beautiful the city is from my eyes, as somebody who brought children here to the school system in the school district of Lancaster. My daughter, my oldest daughter, who benefits from Music for Everyone because she has a violin to play, right? And she is entering into that music community and did all district choir and all district orchestra, and had opportunities like going to Lebanon Valley College to perform last January. That's special. And for communities that have families who don't have those resources, it is our responsibility to provide those. Let me come back for a second, though, and talk a little bit about PCAT and our students at this moment. They're amazing. They come from sort of all walks of life, and then a good number of them come in making because it's theirs, right? They come from communities not unlike my high school that had one art teacher for 700 kids, which I did a lot of learning on my own, as it were. The quality of knowledge and the quality of work ethic that they bring, and I mean knowledge about self-awareness, and that work ethic is astonishing. It is hard to be a maker. You're in the studio for every 3 credits, you're standing for 6 hours in front of an easel, and they take 15 to 18 credit hours. These are worker bees. So as we think about our students at PCAT, what is their role for you in our community? Where can they show up? Our programs our largest 2 programs are illustration and animation and game art. We have runners-up are fine art. Fine arts are still present, and those practitioners are still absolutely in demand, as well as photography and video. Graphic design is still thriving, although they're embracing new kinds of tools because there's so many programs out there you can use to do that preliminary making. So now we bring them in as critical thinkers and creative directors, right? So that's what they can do. And then our 2 newest programs who are sort of tying for strength in our college are design thinking, which is an interdisciplinary program where you bring 2 areas together. And it's served actually as a degree completion program for our sister institutions who have gone through some tragic closures of the last 2 years, from Husson College to Delaware College of Art and Design and the University of the Arts. It's been an important tool for us to make sure we could help keep students on track with no financial impact, negative impact on them. And then live experience design and production, which you may have heard a little bit about in the papers, and our partnership with the Academy of Live Technology. We are looking at the way to get kids from making to practicing, and practicing on behalf of others. They go on to be creative art directors. That's something I think you're aware of freelance illustrators. But they also become engineering technicians for conferencing platforms. You know those shopping apps you have on your phone? Somebody has to do the photo editing. Our students do that. Video editing. Our students are doing that, both in odd ways, in industry, for commercial advertising or inventory visual representation. And I think my most exciting example, and if he's out there watching, Seth Kreider, he was a fine artist. He graduated about 6 or 7 years ago. He went on to get a master's degree in data visualization. And it's not spreadsheet stuff, just so you know. He was hired by the Department of Navy, because they need to communicate with humans in ways that we can understand. So what are we as artists? We're communicators. We translate. We have to be excellent listeners. And so that 4-year degree isn't just about deep diving into a studio and becoming a painter for life. It's becoming a good human who can talk to others and, most importantly, listen. So we're excited about our transformation. We have everybody placed in beds. We have worked with institutions in our community like Lancaster Theological of Moravian University and Franklin and Marshall to partner and to share resources. And they have been incredibly generous as we work together to support each other. So we're in a really awesomely busy moment at PCAT.
Thanks, Cari. Can you just talk a little bit more about how arts education's evolving and, around this topic of looking forward, how are you preparing your students to shape the future of the arts in Lancaster?
We are becoming incredibly interdisciplinary. So if you were an undergraduate and you had to take a language to graduate, if you think about making and learning multiple disciplines, they need to have multiple ways to speak visually. So I'm working now with our animation and game art program to embed data visualization, because little cinematic animations and marketing coupled with telling the story of data over time in motion is the way we help our community understand real information in an objective way that is fairly complicated. We are working with our students to work with a community before they graduate. We have every student must complete an internship, apprenticeship, or a mentorship. And in fact, one of our students worked with Molly on one of those storm drain murals this summer. So it's the one by the hospital. It's really good. They're all wonderful. So how do we show up and help each other? And another thing we've been doing is creating experiences that the work output is for nonprofits. So we created an entity that we call the agency at PCAT. And primarily our students work to create marketing packages for nonprofit organizations. Most recently this summer, we worked with 6 organizations in York County. One was a cat shelter. So the students obviously had some fun in creating a marketing package for them. The point is, how do we give something that is about time, right? Or how do you give work hours? And we're really showing them how to do that in responsible ways in the community.
Thank you. As we kick it to Mitch in true theatrical fashion, we're going to start with a video.
So fresh, so new. It's all for you. Keep your ear to the ground. It's the best show in town.
Probably the most important thing that you hear today from me is I am not Charlie Brown, the bald guy. The other thing that you should know, first off, thank you for the invitation to be a part of this. My wife's name is Diana, and so if I ever send an inappropriate text to a Diana, it's to this person.
I've gotten a few emails over the years.
Not inappropriate ones, but yeah, if it ever says, hey, love you, it's, yeah, she's like, not for me. Yeah. So 14 years ago, my wife Diana and I founded Prima with the aim to invigorate people's lives in this community through fresh theatrical experiences. Because I'm not sure if this has been your experience in life, but I've found that the best moments of life are those bold and beautiful experiences that we share with the people who matter to us, and that happens in a variety of locations and platforms in our lives. But my hope is that in Prima's venue, it's one place that you can experience those kinds of bold and beautiful experiences with the people who matter to you. So we love offering a little bit of like Red Bull for the soul, so you leave feeling more invigorated than when you came, featuring a unique blend of what we call experiential concerts and contemporary theater, with most of the shows at Prima on the charming west side of the city being original productions. So it's set in an intimate theater, about 150 seats. We have free parking, immersive seating in a variety of settings, and an in-theater bar, which makes the performances sound even better, right? Yeah. So there's powerhouse performances and performers coming actually from across the nation, coming into these super comfortable wide seats reflecting Lancaster's spirit of defying expectations that you would see something like this in a town of our size. So in an era where the not-for-profit performing arts sector is facing an average of about 27% average decline in attendance, and U.S. theaters, this is a recent statistic I read, going bankrupt at 3 times the rate of any other time in U.S. history, Lancaster is charting a different course. So at Prima, our attendance has increased by 32% compared to pre-pandemic times. And while not all answers are known, it's clear that fresh experiences are paving an encouraging path forward for the performing arts. So why does this all matter? A thriving performing arts scene has a ripple effect beyond our sector itself. It is, these folks have mentioned, creativity and problem-solving skills in your employees, in your families, in community leaders. It enhances talent retention by fostering a vibrant community to be a part of, and generates a multi-million-dollar impact through dining, accommodations, and jobs. So ultimately, the question that I would pose for myself and for all of us is, what kind of community do you want to be a part of? That it would have the type of vitality that the arts are one part of bringing. So we all want to be a part of a place buzzing with life and energy, and like our fantastic restaurant scene, it's best when it has a variety of flavors, right? Some of you, including myself, remember when it was almost like you had the choice between smorgasbord and smorgasbord? Yeah? Or when Prima started, we were in Prince Street Cafe when it was closed on Sundays, and that was like the cafe, right? So it's beautiful when a community has a variety of flavors of the performing arts, and that we can encourage that there are so many of them. And so I hope that if you haven't yet checked out Prima, I just encourage you to come over to the West Side and check out as the season starts in, goodness, a couple weeks.
Thanks, Mitch. And what do you see as Prima's roles in kind of shaping the future of the arts in Lancaster, especially around reaching new audiences and supporting emerging artists?
Sure. So it has been part of the DNA of the organization. We were nomadic for 8 years before landing into our own venue. So over those 8 years, we were in 15 different venues. It required a extra dose of creativity to figure out how to do what we do in this in these variety of locations. That required and forced us to also collaborate, perhaps more than we would have naturally. And so that meant getting involved with other organizations. And I think of just across this panel, like in the early days of Prima, what was collaborations doing rock bands on flatbed trucks with music for everyone. It was about collaborations with the city and sitting in Mayor Gray's office and listening to his wild ideas of what he wanted for the city. Yeah? There's some stories there. And being a part of the public art board myself. And then the Prima logo was sitting down with students at PCAT and them coming up with a wide range of ideas of how to communicate what the brand was. So the future is in collaboration. It's in open-mindedness. And it's in being open to innovation. And so as now brands, even in the not-for-profit performing arts sector, we get to a point where we become part of the potential of the status quo. And so one of the things that I'm working to fight is that innate sense of like, this is good as it is, but imagining and dreamscaping the future. And that starts with some collaboration.
Thanks, Mitch. So I'm going to do one last question that I'll have all the panelists answer. As the timekeeper, I am now announcing that this is a lightning round. And then we're going to open it up to questions from all of you in the audience. So thanks again for being here. One of the reasons that I was really interested in hosting this forum today is, we know that Lancaster has a really rich arts community. We're all very proud of Lancaster as an arts community. And we also can't be complacent and just assume that we're going to have a vibrant and rich arts community forever without playing an active role in shaping that future. So my last question for the panelists are, what are some of the greatest challenges and opportunities for maintaining that thriving and vibrant arts community here in Lancaster? Do you want to kick us off, John?
Sure. Yeah, a couple things. Number one, advocacy. We've got to do a better job of telling our story to the public and to investors and to foundations and to corporations. How we talk about these things, how we frame the issues, the language that we use, the terminology that we use is critical, all right? First off, we have to tell our story with data and stories, right? For nonprofit, arts-related nonprofits, no, we're not nonprofits. Stop using that term. The only thing that nonprofit describes is your tax status. It talks about nothing about what you do for the community. We prefer community benefit organization. That describes accurately what we do. Nonprofit, it's a coded term, and all it does is describe your tax status, right? Secondly, there's nothing nonprofit about running a nonprofit. If you don't run it like a business, you're not going to be able to raise the money and resources to do the cool things you want to do, right? So let's get away from that terminology, okay? When you go to foundations or potential donors, you're not asking for a gift. You're not asking for charity. You're asking for an investment in our community, right? Language is important. Terminology is important. We've got to do a better job of telling our stories. Part of that is doing a better job of communicating our outcomes. We talk an awful lot in the arts about, oh, it feeds our soul, it makes us whole, it's all these wonderful, fluffy things. It's a great, you know what? It does, right? But, and we understand that. We're artists and, musicians and theater goers and all that kind of stuff. But all too often, the people who hold the purse strings don't get that, right? They want, like any investor in a for-profit business, they want outcomes, right? So we have to talk more about outcomes, things like hard data, issues in how it impacts education, how it impacts the economy, how it impacts public health, how it impacts social justice. Those are all outcomes. We have to spend more time talking about the deliverables of investment in the arts, right? Because donors, that's what they want. Whether you're a for-profit company or whether you're investing in an arts organization, you want results. You want outcomes. You're right on it, man. Collaboration, right? Collaborations build synergies, right? And let's be honest about this. There's only so much money and resources out there for the arts and community investment in the arts, right? So if there's only so much money out there, how do you maximize that money and impact, right? You do that by collaborating, building synergies between and among organizations. That's a fundamental value of Music for Everyone. We have collaborated in some way, shape, or form with more than 100 community benefit organizations, government agencies, or community organizations, and over 90 schools. So collaboration to build synergies to improve your impact. We gotta get out of our silos, in other words. Everyone has their silo, they got their donors, they got their, no, we've gotta, some people say, somebody asked me, a donor asked me the other day, so, man, we have too many, don't we have too many community benefit organizations in Lancaster? And so, no. We have so many issues that we gotta address. We don't have enough. The problem is not too many, the problem is they're operating in silos. Instead of vertical communication, vertical direction, we need cross-horizontal dialogue, communication, and collaboration between and among. There's all kinds of things to collaborate with. It's not just other community benefit organizations. It's the city, it's corporations, it's government agencies, it's schools. So we have to get out of our silos and build the synergies. A good example is there's a group in town called Right Face, right? And it's run by vets, and they use poetry to help vets deal with PTSD, right? So we find out about Right Face, and we're saying, man, we've got to be able to collaborate in some way. So what we do is we provide musicians and songwriters to put their poetry to song, and culminating with the performance at the Ware Center on Veterans Day. We've got to constantly look for opportunities to collaborate with other organizations and entities. And then finally, so I ask all the community benefit organizations, the city, the schools, everyone, who are you reaching out to collaborate with? Okay? And finally, we got to continue to work to lower those barriers to access to music and arts opportunities, to learn, to grow, to enjoy, okay? Because, again, a more engaged populace leads to a stronger community. So advocacy, better job of defining our success, right? More collaboration, and finally continue to lower those barriers so our public can truly participate in art in our community.
Thanks, John. We might need a little shorter response so we can get to some audience questions. Just throwing that out there as we keep it moving. You're doing great.
I added the thunder to the lightning round.
Yes, thank you.
Advocacy, yes, yes, and community buy-in. Very often when we put a piece of art in the community, the city funds a piece of art, in the Facebook comments there's always somebody asking, why didn't you use that money to fill a pothole, right? There's really, a very good answer, and that is space activation, like I had mentioned earlier, placemaking, right? When we are able to manipulate and shape the urban fabric through art, the community will see itself represented in that art piece. I spoke about the Plum Street Roundabout Mosaic earlier. We went out to the community and said, what subject matter do you want to see captured in this mosaic? We asked people specifically in that area. They said they wanted to see local culture. So we went out to Ross Elementary School, their 5th grade art class, and we asked all of the students there, I believe your son, was one of those students. We asked them to draw pictures of what their favorite thing is in their neighborhood. The artist then took those images and created mosaics and stitched them together. It's called Quilt of Our Neighborhood. And that will go into that courtyard. It's 7 feet by 7 feet. It's quite large. So yes, that was a way to get the community to buy into this project. It had a budget, I think, of $20,000. You're still gonna hear that question, we still have other things to fix in the city. Well, we put something beautiful in this neighborhood that is going to activate that space. When you activate a space, you have more eyes in that space, more activity, which means it's a deterrence for graffiti, for vandalism, for antisocial behavior. So not only is it a great vehicle for community engagement, but it's also a really great way to have a safer community, to have a happier community, and to have a more connected community.
I'd say responsible planning, and I would link data to duty. For us, as we develop programs and also look for ways of underwriting costs so that it's more affordable and inclusive for students, when we look at developing the program, we look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, we look at the state data on high demand occupations. We work backwards from that. We also look at the jobs that are out there, and we look at the entry pay. And then we try to incrementalize the degrees so that students can start and stop on their way to that, and note when they can stop and start gaining those earnings and then come back in. What we can do is manipulate time with those degrees and the timeline to completion so that they can complete in a way that benefits the elder care that they're responsible for and the child care and the family and community responsibilities. We sought support from the state. We received just under $1 million along with other colleges here in the community, and in partnership with the Workforce Development Board for what they called a near completer grant. We were able to underwrite the tuition, the family care, the transportation, the food costs for 23 students who had stopped out as they sought a degree in art and design because of cost and life interferences. and that was the Commonwealth support. We're seeking federal support. Senator Casey supported our application and receipt of, soon to be released to us, appropriations funding for our institution to invest in equipment that may or may not go into a former musical venue on the block where we are on Prince Street, linked to our growing programs. I can't make promises, but I think you might know what I'm talking about. So that we can reactivate it, but also turn it into this place of making again. We focus on creative economy in higher ed, but undergirding that is a healthy creative community. That means that we need to take responsibility in K-12, so we're working to spiral back into those classrooms to bring no-cost courses to these students through programs that are underwritten by the EITC funds that we're able to obtain through donors. Under the leadership, I want to shout out to Natalie Lassick and Selena Almanzar-Ori, who are key leaders in our programs in the community. And then finally, I would say it's our own community that needs to be healthy. Do I sweat when I think about higher education? I sure do. But we invest in programs and people, and then these places and these amenities way last because we're here for people in our community. Our faculty are happy. That is a goal. Our students are happy. That is a goal. Great vision and chasing visions, we love those ideas, but not at the expense of our healthy campus community. Because then we're able, if you think about Maslow's hierarchy, to reach outside of our doors and be part of yours too.
Mitch, bring us home.
Deneen, Mayor Sirachi had been asked this question, what's the number one issue she sees for the arts in Lancaster? And she said affordable housing, and I went, huh? But thinking about it, the reality is that I have staff who can't afford to live in Lancaster. That becomes a problem, as you can imagine. So that's something that comes to mind. The fuel to do the work that the community benefit sector does, that's important, the investment in this community. Other challenges is, of course, audience engagement and growth. The performing arts specifically, we don't compete with each other, we compete with couches. So it's Netflix or us, right? And so that's a challenge to the performing arts to create content that is so contagious that people talk about it and and can't help themselves but come. So the talent retention and development for personally, one of the challenges has been that we need larger and longer artist contracts as that allows for us to get talent that can stick around for a while. So they're more apt to take longer contracts. And so what we're working on is touring Prima shows as a benefit to Lancaster, that we would be the place where production's innovative work starts and then spreads. So that's going to be something that we're seeing as a potential challenge. And then in Lancaster, we have this beautiful, rich, and important history. But one of the things that we get to dance with is getting stuck in the past versus embracing innovation. And I don't think it's a either or, it's a yes. Yeah. And so that's just something that I think from a community standpoint, we get to have the opportunity to dance with history and innovation.
Raise your hand high if you have a question or a comment.
I don't know how you're going to take this, but I was thinking we're about to build a $300 million prison. And what contribution could the arts make to that institution in the effort to reduce recidivism?
If I could offer a suggestion, Second Chance Pell, which is a program, federal funding for those who have been released either on parole or post-release monitoring. Education. giving them the opportunity, low barrier, no barrier access to training and tools, even at the small incremental level, like Adobe Photoshop, or learning to use programs that we see in use for graphic design, but also maybe in animation. So there are ways of doing it and finding the funding. And that's actually a sort of burgeoning area in higher education where we're starting to give attention, because it's actually about reintegration into the community in a permanent way, and that takes support, and that's ongoing, right? And education and low barrier access is one way.
I actually want to support your question by supporting them. What most people don't understand, hi, my name is Ryan Schenk. I'm director of the Red Rose Film Festival, so this is a very relevant conversation. However, what most people aren't aware of are the hundreds and hundreds of trades that are supported in the film and entertainment industry and in the music industry, that these jobs, while may not be glamorized, re-entry into our community could be made much less of a barrier for someone who says, you know what, I love movies, but I'm good with being an electrician. So if you introduce the low barrier as something that people can relate to that have nothing to do with entertainment, but say, I know this skill, that's something that you all can certainly support and relate to. That was my, from that question, I'm like, okay, got to think about this.
The talent, so audience, consumer, maker, the talent, and the support of the talent. And you're talking about the support of the talent, which takes a whole village, right? So not being at the center, being ready to be there to support it and facilitate it, absolutely.
You can take one more question over here.
Hi, I'm Chris Kennedy, and I moved to Lancaster 5 years ago to bring the age-friendly initiative to this city and county. And after 20 years working in that area nationally with national conferences, the concept of creative aging is huge. And what I saw here in Lancaster was the opportunity to build in the connection between our older adults that have 30 years longer than any generation ever had before, and connecting and making intergenerational contributions to keep the arts and bring the arts for us that are older, as well as for youth to bring it up. And just to end, the founding director of the Stanford Center on Longevity, a quote that she had at one of the early conferences I went to was, the number of older people is the only natural resource that is actually growing. And we are attracting those old people here because of what we are. And if they're moving here, they have resources. So there's my pitch.
I heard we have one more short over here.
Sometimes I'm short, sometimes I'm not. I love the support of the animals, and we have a lot of animals that are mistreated and don't have homes, and a lot of them were given up during the pandemic because elderly people couldn't afford to take care of them. And I would like to see Artists for Animals. I would like to see a year-long a group of people getting together, the artists selling their things, doing whatever they have to do for that year, taking that money and giving that money to elderly people who have their pets that they can't afford to take care of. Artists for Animals could be a year-long thing, giving exposure to both issues, artists in the communities and animals who truly need to be taken care of.
All right, that was some bonus free ideas at the end there. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. Can we give a round of applause to our speakers? And yeah, thank you all for being here as well. As always, we have a video recording of today's talk. It'll go up on our website and YouTube next week, so please share that with folks. Our next First Friday Forum will be on Friday, October 4th. Before then, we do have a special event I just want to give a pitch for. It's next week. It's back here at the Ware Center on Tuesday. if you've been hearing about a lot of investment in rail trails and nature preserves and water trails in Lancaster, and you want to hear about those projects and how they're supporting our economic and community development, please come back on Tuesday. We're going to have a nice reception, a keynote, a great panel, and you can get tickets to that event on our website at hourglasslancaster.org. So until then, go enjoy First Friday today, support some artists downtown, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.